G'day guys, welcome to Van Diemen's Land Model Bench and to our next kit build, and it's going to be this one from Tamiya. It's the German 8-ton Semitrack 20mm. What an awesome kit. This first came out in 1975. It was a big deal when it came out. I remember almost every model shop had a built-up version of this. I don't know whether Tamiya supplied them with the model or whether a local, model builder put it together for the shops, but this was a huge release when it came out. Some of the parts in this kit, like the half track itself, date back to about 1972. It's hard to get information from Tamiya, but as far as I can tell, this thing has been in continuous production since its release in 75. I don't know how many gazillions of these they must have sold over the years. I picked this one up second hand for a few dollars, and it's just a great kit, and I've always wanted to build it. About a 9 or 10 year old Dan wanted to build this, so in my 50s now, but I finally get to make it. So let's have a bit of a squeeze inside and see what we get. Oh, before we do, let's have a quick look around the box. So on the side there, we've got a couple of examples. There's an example there and there of it. We've also got one of the troop carrying version of the half track. On the other side, as was typical, a lot of Tamiya boxes in those days, we've got some examples of some of their other kits that you can buy on the same scale. That's about it. Let's open her up and see what we've got inside. Okay, now I've already washed all the parts in this kit in preparation for building, so they're not in their plastic bags, but I haven't removed anything off the sprues. So what you're seeing here is still basically the kit. The first sprue you get is one here with some figures in it. Now, I think this kit was also released without the figures at one point. You could buy, at least you could certainly buy these separately from Tamiya, but these were the crew that came with it, moulded in white. For 1975, they look pretty decent to me. No real problem with them. So they're good. Then we've got the actual 20mm gun itself, which is essentially on 2 sprues. So we've got one here, and the moulds are all really crisp. I don't know exactly when this particular kit was popped out, but I doubt it's an original one, so I'd say this was probably done in the 80s or 90s. But it still looks great. I mean, the moulds have really held up well, nice and sharp, good level of detail. Tamiya were way ahead of the game back in the 70s. Other companies, of course, have caught up and arguably have surpassed them in some kits, but they're still really good. There we go, there's the other part there, which you can see is just a mirror copy. That's the other side, obviously, though, so you can see some of the armour. Then, looking at the half track itself, we've got this chassis piece. This is the piece that came from 1972, and again, nicely moulded, very solid too, so the model's going to have a really good solid base. You can see there's some under detail there, the chassis detail, so we've got the base, the engine there, and the gearbox, transmission there. Okay, we've got the back of the half track there where our gun's going to be mounted. We've also got some parts there for the cab. It does come with a canvas roof if you elect to put that on. That's not shown on the box art, but it is there if you want it. Again, quite nice. And yep, that part's is dated 1975, so yeah, I got the date right on that. Oh, the other thing is too, is probably worth noting, I mean, they've got their money's worth out of this kit. These pieces here that make up the 20mm anti-aircraft gun, they're also available as a separate kit as well. So if you just want the gun and you don't want the half track, you can do that. Okay, in this sprue we've got all our wheels for the half track, and again, nicely moulded, nice sharp detail, nothing wrong with that at all. They'll come up really well. Like that a lot. We've got the front of the cab, we've got the front of the hood there, vents on the side there, the levers on the side for the engine, fuel tanks, seats, so on. Got some suspension there, some leaf suspension as well. Really nicely moulded. Fairly simplistic by the standards of some of the manufacturers today, like Dragon, who like to put a gazillion parts in their kits, but I'll tell you what, not too bad. Look at that front radiator there, that looks pretty good. I'm not at all complaining about that. We've also got some poly caps for the wheels. Being an older Tamiya kit, of course, we've got rubber tracks. These sometimes shrink as they get old, so it'll be interesting to see how we go with these ones, but overall for the type of thing they are. They're not bad at all, and I think they should look alright on the kit. Two of those obviously. We've also got some of this, looks like fly screen, but it's just a mesh that we can cut up and use around the base of the, or the back of the half track there where the gun is. So that's that. We've also got two front tyres which are rubber. Feel pretty hard, I don't know if they were like that when they were new. We've also got the axle obviously and a screw which presumably at some point comes in handy to hold it all in place. Alright, as far as decals go, they're fairly limited. As you'd expect, there's a lot to show you there, but let's have a quick look at the instructions and it'll give us some ideas. So this one's in Japanese, we've also got English instructions. There's the decals, we'll have a quick look at those. So again, I'm not sure how old this kit is, so these have probably been in the box for quite a long time, but they look like they're still usable. Fairly atypical sort of Tamiya ones. They're not horrible, but you know, they're not awesome either. They're just what they are. But they should be fine. And let's have a look at the instructions. So, as was the way, we've got a bit of an introduction to what this particular military vehicle was all about. We've got some tips there about the assembly. One nice feature is we've got photographs of the actual assembled model, or stages of the model assembled, so you can actually get an idea what it should look like if you're following along. Fairly atypical to Tamiya instructions, which is to say that they're nicely illustrated, very clear. Don't use colour, all those sort of fancy things that modern kits do, but nonetheless very very clear what you're supposed to be doing here. So it looks like we're starting out with the gun itself. Anti-aircraft gun, so we're assembling all that in stage 1, 2 and 3. A little bit of heating up some parts there, which is interesting. Oh, okay, so the guns can be swiveled up and down, but you have to heat apart to sort of hold them in place. Okay. Then we've got some construction work starting in step 7 for the muffler. We've also got some construction starting on the winch in step 7 as well. Then we're going on to finishing off the gun. So we're putting some bits and pieces on the sides there, the actual guns themselves, putting some armour on it. And then down here, also labelled as step 7, which is a little bit confusing. I know what they've done. So they've said basically the gun on the back, the anti-aircraft gun, is steps 1 to 7, I guess, is what they're saying. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense because that's a muffler. Why would you want a muffler? Anyway, that looks like what they've basically done, and then they've gone back to step 5 again. So yeah, oh well. So step 5 is the gun, step 6 is gun, step 7 we start working on the chassis of the truck, putting the wheels on it, or putting the front axles on rather. We continue on with step 8 and 9, now we start to look at the rear wheels. This is a bit weird, these breakout boxes are actually numbered the same as the main one. I don't remember ever seeing that before. Maybe that was a thing with Tamiya. That's a little confusing, I would have thought. Anyway, there you go. Looking at the main step 8, we've got construction of the chassis itself, which is fairly, it's not super detailed, it's pretty straightforward. Step 9, installation of the rear wheels. Step 10 is to do with the front suspension. That is weird. Okay, so I'm probably thinking this is rather odd, and those of you who build lots of Tamiya kits are probably going, what's wrong with you, Dan? I'm just not used to this idea. Like having 2 step 11s, I'm not sure why you need that. Anyway, that's what they've done. Is that suggesting you can do them in parallel maybe? I'm not sure. Anyway, step 11 there is about putting the road wheels on. Step 12 is driver's seat. Over here is installation of the road wheels. Is that what they're trying to say? So 11 you put them together and 11 you put them on, maybe. Alright, step 12 is the driver's seat and the front cab area, which is all good. Then we have some instructions on applying the decals for the uniforms. There are some provided in that sheet, which is nice. And we have a choice of some division markings as well, so we can choose which one we want there. For the main half track itself, however, we've only got the one colour scheme basically. So we've got one here with the camouflage pattern in winter, and then we've just got it here showing without the winter camouflage. You can see where all the decals are placed. So essentially this kit is meant to be built as you see it represented on the front box artwork, which is fair enough. So it's a pretty straightforward build, even though I do find those sort of jumps and steps a little confusing, but that's me. I'm sure it will make more sense as we start building. And down here we've also got, I should have mentioned, a bit of a painting guide as well for the figures, which is nice. So certainly not up on part count with some of the newer releases out there, but that's kind of the joy of this one for me, is it's going to be a lot easier to build, and I can spend a little bit more time on this winter camouflage, which I haven't done before. I have picked up some aftermarket parts for this particular kit because the 20mm guns are so prominent in this kit. I decided to get some aftermarket barrels. I don't normally bother with that, but I think with something like this it really will pay off. So I got these ones. They're already out of the pack, but these are from Voyager models, and this includes the 4 barrels, the muzzles, and also some magazines. So you can see the kit there, but that's the parts. They look fantastic. Like turned barrels there. We've got some little brass pieces for the muzzles on the end. We've got some photo etch for the magazine, so they should look fantastic. The other thing I lashed out and bought was this, which is Eduard's Detail set for this particular kit. It has 2 lots of photo etch, so I guess we should probably open that up and have a bit of a squeeze and see what that's about. Okay, so these are the instructions for the Eduard Detail set, and these are in colour, which is the way Eduard typically does theirs. So we've got some detail parts, and we've also got some alternate detail parts. So what I mean by that, let's try again. Okay, so these are instructions for the Eduard Detail set, and they're printed in colour, which is fairly atypical now for Eduard. The detail parts really come in two flavours, if you like. The first part is where we're actually adding additional detail to the kit, and the second is where we're replacing some of the default Tamiya parts with more detailed components. So they've got it listed there as original kit parts and parts to be removed and photo etch parts. So for example here you can see you're meant to remove that bracket and replace it with a more detailed photo etch one. I will probably do a hybrid, which is typically what I do with Eduard. So I'll look at each photo etch part and just make a determination whether I think the extra effort involved in using the photo etch is warranted given the detail that you get, or that you're likely to see it. So I'll see how we go as we work our way through it. So I'll probably use some of it, but not necessarily all of it. But nonetheless, it looks really good. So let's have a bit of a look at the parts themselves. There's a total of 3 photo etch sheets here, so you can see here, quite nicely detailed. Yeah, nothing much to say. I mean, Eduard do a great job with this sort of thing. So it'll really just be a case of seeing where we want to apply it. It's been painted, which is interesting. That's about. But anyway, looks really nice. So I got these on eBay. I don't know if Eduard still have these available readily. This is the one that I really got it for. This is for the side decks. You can see there that the photo etch is going to look so much nicer than that mesh that comes in the kit, and a bit easier to apply too. So that alone for me made it worthwhile. One other interesting piece we get, which I wasn't anticipating, is we get a transparent piece that's been printed on to represent the instrument cluster. So that's kind of cool. So there you go. That's all the parts. Let's see how it all goes together. Well, that's it for the overview of the kit. In part 2, we'll have a look at starting on the construction. See you then.